Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us here at this event that we've been organizing and putting together as the SAIEE Central Gauteng Center. As I've been introduced, my name is Lehlonoloma Mashego, and I currently chair the Central Gauteng Center and of the SAIEE. And some of you are in the field of electrical. I'm assuming that's why most of us are here. And hopefully most of us have heard about the SAIEE and its various centers and various sections that do different types of work. But for those that are not familiar with the Institute, basically the Institute is a body for electrical engineers, electrical technologists, so basically anyone who's in the field of electrical engineering. So the SAIEE, the mission statement for the SAIEE, it's, as I've mentioned, that they strive to be a leading and respected learned society of electrical engineers through the following step, which is promoting electrical science and its applicants for the benefits of its members and the Southern African community. To keep close contact with appropriate national and international organizations, to recognize achievement by advancement of individual members to higher grades of membership within the Institute and thereby enhancing the status of the profession. And lastly, to being apolitical and non-discriminatory to all its members. So those who are in the electrical field, we would, and are not yet members, we would like to encourage you guys to join us and become members of the Institute. This is a brief history, I suppose, of the Institute. It was formed a long time ago in 1909, and so far it has grown to the extent that approximately 5,000 members are on its membership roll. And these are members at various grades. So we have student membership, we have membership that you join when you just become a professional in your field, and then you can upgrade to senior member, and then lastly, I believe it's fellowship member. That's when you're a very old man, I suppose. So members are professionally engaged in full range of engineering activities, including academic research, manufacturing, electronics, telecommunications, measurements and control, mining, and power infrastructural services. The Institute contributes to common interests and welfare of the whole engineering fraternity, and also it works closely in cooperation with the Engineering Council of South Africa, better known as EXA. In terms of communicating to its members and the public in general, the Institute has two official publications. One of them is the What Now magazine. Initially it used to be posted out, and now it's emailed to its members electronically on a monthly basis, and there's also the SAIEE Africa Research Journal. Its objectives, as I've mentioned, is outward looking would be a leadership role in technology, to deal with industry issues. So the Institute is consulted by various bodies and corporations, including government, to give some feedback or inputs on various aspects of policy. Government interactions, as I mentioned, legislation and inputs, skills development and resource building, including running a bursary scheme, input to EXA operations, outreach projects, so, as well as to make a significant and hopefully tangible difference to industry and society. And inward looking within the organization itself, it's focused on member career enhancement, so that's mentoring, etc. CPD points and professional registration facilitation, networking, which hopefully we will achieve today. So basically this is an invite not to disappear after the talk. Peer recognitions, as well as facilitate interaction on engineering issues and access to information. So as well, in terms of that tangible difference, we'd like to see it amongst our members as well. Now, the SAIEE in broad terms covers the electrical fraternity. This is a national body. But ourselves as the Central Gauteng Center, we are basically based here in Gauteng. We are a newly found center. I think we've been running for about 4 years, if I were to estimate. And we cover mainly the Central Gauteng Center, so that's the Johannesburg region and extending as far as Pretoria. There are also other centers that cover other regions of Gauteng. I think there's a center in the Vaal, and there's another center that's been kicked off in the Secunda area, I believe. So far, I mean, this year we've been busy organizing various events. Today is one of them that we want to bring to you guys, and I hope it is as valuable to yourself as we hoped it would be. We'd like to thank Mr. Mchela for making himself available today to deliver this presentation to us, and we hope it would be as mind-blowing or as interesting as we expect it to be today.
My name is, like I said, is Komoto. There's a lot of Zulu people around us, obviously Afrikaans people, and they're Pedi people. So his name is Machela, yes, baby. Koko. Just a brief bio on our speaker today. Mr. Koko is a former interim group exec of the state-owned power utility that provides over 95% of electricity to South Africa, as well as approximately 45% of electricity that is used in the Southern African Development Community region. He began his career over 20 years ago as a young engineer at Eskom, where he joined the organization as an engineer in training stationed at Duba Power Station. A year later, he was appointed a system engineer specializing in hydrogen and water treatment plants. He soon, having spent 22 years in this role, he was promoted to the position of senior engineer, and a year later, he was then again promoted to the position of boiler plant engineering manager and pressure parts engineer at the same power station. Subsequent to that, in 2004, he was promoted to the position of senior manager, power plant engineering in the enterprise division, where he spent almost 4 years and was subsequently promoted to senior general manager, engineering in the generation division. Subsequent to that, in 2010, he took up the role of the head of the technology group within Eskom, and as a divisional executive of group technology. On an international level, in 2013, he was appointed a board member of PowerGen Africa and VGB PowerTech. During this period, he was also appointed chair of the Eskom Power Plant Institute. In October 2015, the generation division and group technology were consolidated into one group, and Mr. Koko then led generation and technology as its group executive. Again, in 2016, Mr. Koko was tasked with leading Eskom in its role as interim group chief exec. So there's no doubt that the man has extensive experience in power generation and as well as leading the whole power value chain in its entirety. No doubt a controversial figure, but again, no doubt a figure that has vast experience.
I am now a managing director of a company called Machela Energy, and is a project development company, and we have set ourselves to be the biggest independent power producer in the region, second to Eskom in size. If you've been part of Eskom, you can't be part of a small thing. We will, by the end of this year, have close to 300 megawatts that we will have signed up. And by the end of next year, we will double it up. I do work and consulting work for the energy ministries in the region. And what's interesting in the region is that when you walk in a ministry of power and energy, people will go like Engineer Coco, so it's a title. So yesterday I had a conference call with the equivalent of NERSA in one of the countries, and he introduced herself as engineer so-and-so. So when you walk around in Africa in this field, you can't avoid being called an engineer. But besides, it's a beautiful profession. It's a profession that I chose by accident. I did not mean to be an engineer. I wanted to be a medical doctor. I applied for UCT for medical degree. I was not accepted for medical degree. I was only accepted for engineering. I could not get I was accepted for medicine at Medunza, and I wanted to go to Medunza, and I could not get a bursary at Medunza, and I got an ESCOM bursary for UCT, and I stayed in, and I never regretted it. That's why I stayed in ESCOM for so long. And that's why I'm not going to politics. And I assume that those that are here that are used to diversions on Twitter and divert to politics will get bored today, because today I'm not going to talk politics. I refuse to do that. I assume that we have a community of engineers, community of people that are passionate, that they want to get into the engineering science of energy development. I want to start with acknowledgements up front. I played at a very high level internationally, and I've interacted with best in the class, cream of the crop. A couple of them are here. And a lot of what I'm going to present have got a touch of the people that I've interacted with. So I want to acknowledge that. One of the things I did in ESCOM a couple of years ago, I had a brain trust that I would sit with and we'll discuss the energy development in the future. And we reached a conclusion that the structure of the electricity supply in the future will change. And when it changes, because I was a senior official in ESCOM, and I used to say, I'm like the Pope in ESCOM, and there's no cardinal that does not believe in the Pope, and therefore ESCOM will live for the next 100 years in the same way it's currently lived for 95 years. Jan van der Bijl, when he set up ESCOM, he did so with the expectation that it will live to eternity. We inherited it, and there was no way we could break it up. It would evolve with the future. But there was a recognition that the structure of the electricity industry in the future cannot stay the same. You know, the concept of an idea whose time has come, if you hold on to it, you're holding on to nothing. Because the time for change has come. And what I did at that point, I took this brain trust, which I identified, and many of them don't know how I did that. But as a leader, that's your job to identify the future stars of the business. And I would call them in and I would deploy them all over the world. At one point I had 80 competent engineers all over the world. I used to say I'm hiding them. And then I identified senior positions in these organizations, and I said, you know, that organization is very critical. The president must come from ESCOM. And it's no coincidence that we have Rob where he is, because we engineered it that way. Same way with Deva. Because we wanted very critical people in critical areas that will come back and be thought leaders as the energy transitions takes place. It is for that reason that you will find that when we deal with these topic, I get very passionate to a point that at times I become stubborn, and I'm very comfortable with that. I addressed a meeting in 2010 in Germany, Energy for All, under Dr. Yamkela at that time. And wherever I went, I gave them a view of what's my vision for 2050. What must be the electricity system for the region building up to 2050? Reaching the 900 million people that do not have cooking energy. Reaching the 600 million people that do not have electricity. And at the same time, decarbonizing the electricity sector. So the debate is not whether Machala believes in renewables or not. It's a misplaced debate, because that's the idea which time has come. If you come to my house, you'll see construction of solar PVs. Distributed generation is here to stay. And you can't work around it. You can't avoid it. The systems operator must just have sight of those distributed generators and have the capability to dispatch, to have a synchronous generation that will control the grid. And we'll get into the details of that. But let me give you my vision, and let me play it again. Africa has resources. We have coal in South Africa, we've got coal in Botswana, we've got coal in South Africa. It's a resource that we cannot avoid not to use. And that is why when you see at the research portfolio of Eskom, you will see a very, very strong clean energy technologies, clean coal technologies for Eskom. Because at one point in time, we've got to be able to exploit coal as a resource and do so in a clean way. We had a very exciting coal technology research that I was very excited about that never was, called the underground coal classification. But nevertheless, that's what it is. We've got gas, we've got uranium, nuclear. Unfortunately, it's been politicized. And I do hope that in this forum, we will put the politics out of it. We'll put the politics out of it, and we'll apply our mind to setting up an energy mix for the future that will decarbonize the electricity sector, allow the region, not necessarily South Africa, allow the region to live within its own carbon budget, and to be able to provide affordable electricity that will drive economic development in the region. The region is a resource, it's endowed with resource, it's endowed with gold, whatever you can think of, that you cannot exploit only with solar and wind. So we have to do that.
Now I said to one engineer, 565 megawatt is 1 unit of Duvo that you can take because renewables are a must take, that you take off. But once you take off this unit, it can't come back in 4 hours. It is not that flexible. My colleagues have written a report that I deliberately did not reference with DOE or my former colleagues, and they say we have no problem with the renewables in the current system as they are. Of course, that's a political statement. I do not believe
it's an engineering robust analysis, and it hurts me when engineers come across that way, because they think this is what the politicians want, and therefore we must tailor-make your messaging. But what they do not say is that we do curtail in the current system wind in the morning. The alternative we have is to take out a big machine equivalent to 5 megawatts. But that big machine is not flexible. Our grid is an island on its own, and therefore importing is not choice for now. It's the nature of a power plant engineer. When we built Medupi, when we planned for Medupi, we planned for 60 years. I think we could have done it differently, but that's what it is. So we should not be uncomfortable in dealing with a plan that is 50 years to go. So let's say the peak in 2050 is 70 gigawatt. It means on a particular day, it is feasible on a good day that 100% of it will be supplied by converter-based generating resources. This has been very wonderful conversations. I think what is happening in the energy transition is that it's an idea that is an idea whose time has come. You cannot stop deep penetration of renewables. You cannot stop people putting solar rooftops. You cannot stop people putting wind turbines in their energy mix. This discussion enables the deepening of renewables in a manner that is controllable, in the manner that is affordable, in the manner that the country can afford. We have over 900,000 people in the region that does not have cooking energy. We've got 600 million people that does not have electricity. At the same time, we need to decarbonize the electricity sector. And the conversation that we've been having here has been wonderful. We have a brain trust of students, dynamic, young, energized, that are really raring to go, and I think they must be allowed to go.
Hi, my name is Obakeng Mataboge. I was doing my final year at Wits University this year.
And hi, I am Teresh Yangwako. I am currently doing my master in electrical engineering.
So the talk today, organized by the SAIEE CPC, was mainly based on the energy of South Africa, actually the future of SADC in terms of energy requirements, electricity, and the future of renewable energy there. What I've learned is how much renewable energy could actually contribute to the problems being faced in SA, most importantly looking at the load shedding that was previously experienced over the years.
Okay, well, what I learned here today was that, we mostly focused on renewable energy, and we know that obviously our country is struggling with supplying energy because apparently we have fossil fuel depletions, but that I don't pretty much know about. So what I learned was that renewable energy is actually the future, like he mentioned.
Okay, my name is Lisonolo Masheho. I am the chair of the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers, the Central Gauteng Center. Today we had an event which was a talk, a presentation given by Mr. Machela Koko, right, on renewable penetration and their impact on the grid. And we found this important to organize this particular event so that we can get someone with information and, expertise as well as the experience in power generation to come and address fellow electrical engineers as well as our colleagues in the electrical engineering field, in the electrical engineering industry, to come and engage and discuss and talk about what impact would this integration into our power system of new renewable power sources, both solar, wind, distributed energy, and to allow the audience that came to attend today to have a conversation and a discussion with him and be able to pose their questions and get understanding from someone who is informed about this particular topic.
My name is Teboho Machabe. I am the Deputy Chairperson of the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers, Central Gauteng Center. We felt the need to have this talk because electricity or energy or power is an integral part of the economy of this country. And we felt the need that engineers need to come to the party and start talking about such issues. Generally, engineers take a back seat and politicians and and other people who don't really know much about this sector or this technology engage on these issues while we sit on the sidelines. So we felt the need, there's an opportunity for everybody to actually engage and discuss the matter going forward. We can agree that the technology going forward is changing and it's taking a different dynamic than in the past. For example, we had an abundance of coal in the past. Right now it's a question mark. We don't know what's going on. We also have a penetration of renewable energy. How do we engage with that? How do we integrate this onto our network? All this needs to be discussed. And that's where engineers come into the picture. So that's why we felt the need to have this kind of discussion. It doesn't end here, it goes forward, and it's a continuous process that needs to be discussed. Over and above that, we need to bring on board our young engineers, our university students, to come and discuss and see what the life of engineer entails. So yeah, that's why we're also having it at the University of Witwatersrand, the home of the best engineers in the country.